Okay, welcome everybody. It's Tuesday, March 24th, 7:30 p.m. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Darien Board of Finance to order. First item on the agenda, as always, is public comment. I don't think everybody in the audience here is either part of government or staff or meeting with us tonight, so haven't seen them. Public comment. We'll move on to the next. Is discussion and action on a number of different budget items. So I was going to recommend that we switch around the order a little bit tonight and move up our review of the fire marshal's budget, just because it's relatively small, and we'll allow him so we can get through that. And then after that, we'll go to post 53, and then we'll kind of go back onto our normal cadence of the rest of the budgets.
Okay, I hope I have the most updated one. So fire marshal budget is, the total amount of the budget is $649,752. It's actually sorry, my eyes, increase of 17.5% or $118,139. And it's really due to salary steps. And I guess the biggest driver was really the new deputy fire marshal, right? Was the move. I don't really have the other items in the budget. The part-time and overtime was pretty. You had a $1,250 increase, which was, it looks like a big percentage increase, but it's has something to do with the callback, subject to 4-hour minimum. So that, to me, when anything that's under, it's pretty de minimis. So I don't have a lot of comments here. Most of the salary steps make sense to me. I didn't know if anyone here has any questions about the fire marshal budget.
Just to clarify, I think you quoted the 26 budget.
Sorry, the 27
budget
was
is
649,752, right?
No.
I'm sorry, the 794,906.
Yes.
Sorry, thank you.
Just for clarity for everyone.
Eyes. 794,906, up 118,139 or 17.5%,
Right.
Largely driven by the fact that we have a new position. The new deputy fire marshal.
Right.
So, does anyone have any questions about that?
Does it make sense for you just to articulate for everyone the rationale for the position, which is, I think, was pretty clear in the Board of Selectmen meeting, but for our benefit?
So the position, the Board of Selectmen moved, I think actually Town Administrator moved the position, so instead of a full year start, it's a half-year start, so a January start. The position is one more position, and we're hoping it's the last position that we have to request for quite some time. It's to help us fulfill our requirements by the state to do the mandated inspections that occur on an annual, biannual, or triannual basis in the properties throughout the town. With the construction of all the new developments, multifamily units all require annual inspections. So all of the apartments that are being constructed are required to be inspected annually by our office. Unlike the building department, once the project is done, they are basically done with anything unless somebody pulls a permit to do new work. We are involved with that step, and then once the project gets their final CO, we quote unquote own the building for the life of the building as far as inspections go. So we are responsible to ensure by state statute that things are inspected on a regular basis.
And do I have this number right, that the current staffing level would leave you 1,600 hours short of, that's kind of a number I got out of the Board of Selectmen meeting?
It may leave us 1,600 hours short based on the half year.
I don't remember if it was the half year or the full year.
I don't have my spreadsheet with me.
Okay. But it's to fill that gap.
It's to fill that gap
necessary
where we are short with current staffing and based on projects being completed and timing of the completion of projects.
Okay.
Once downtown and Thorndale Circle finish up, that's the bulk of the apartments to be completed, along with Parklands and the one across from the former Good Life Shopping Center. To our knowledge, there's nothing out there being proposed yet, so in addition to everything else that's out there.
Thank you.
I think our community hears a lot about all the new buildings that are coming up, and they hear the benefits of the revenue that we get when they're sold, the revenue that we get when our building department and planning and zoning department kind of fulfill permits, and the increase to the grand list. But I think this is a good example of a lot of the costs that the town incurs, whether it's the increased staffing we need on your team, the staffing that we need on the health department's team to sort of do similar inspections to all these food establishments and so forth. So there is sort of an offsetting expense that we see relative. It's not just all the additional assets and revenue that we see that this brings into the town.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about what a typical inspection would be? Like how long, what you're looking for, that kind of stuff?
So like when we do an apartment inspection, we're going into the apartment to ensure that smoke detectors are in the unit and they're operable, that if there's a sprinkler system, that sprinkler heads are not obstructed, that the apartment door to the corridor itself is self-closing and it latches closed, and that there are no hoarding conditions visible, and that people can move about in their apartment without any danger. A typical apartment inspection is about 15 to 20 minutes or so. We have to go back, we document what we did, we write up the inspection violation. Restaurant inspections take, more time. Small retail, take a small deli, half hour-ish, 40 minutes, depending on what's there in the interaction that you have with the business owner, questions that they may have. And along same goes with the tenants in the apartments and everything, questions they may have on fire safety. The short end is the apartments are the quickest, and then larger buildings, larger businesses, like the high school is 4 people that are doing that inspection, and it takes about a day and a half in total with 4 people getting through the building to do the inspection. So it all varies on what's there and what we have.
So between full and part-time, how many heads do we have as fire marshal and assistant or deputy?
Currently, or what will we have being requested?
What will we, yeah.
The request will be for 1 additional, so it'll be 6 full-time staff, 1 part-time fire inspector, and a part-time blight officer, and then a full-time office admin.
And do we know how that compares to like New Canaan or any other similarly sized town?
New Canaan has 1 full-time fire marshal and 2 part-time staff. Their commercial base, according to them, is a lot less, and their apartments are a lot less than what we have in town. Comparative to, I don't know what Norwalk's staffing is. I think their staff is around 7 to 8. Stanford, I believe, is 12 authorized full-time staff. And neither one of those cities can complete what needs to be completed. And Westport, similar sized town, career fire department, they have a staff of, I believe it's 5 full-time in the fire marshal's office. And it's a balance of how much are we putting into the fire prevention side and how much are we putting into the line firefighting side, because it's all career staff. So and we're kind of unique because we are not balancing off career firefighters. We have a whole volunteer, we have an entire volunteer fire service in town. So this will be able to get us to do our mandated inspections. There's a lot of towns and cities that are not able to do it because of that.
And do some of the other fire cities that you're mentioning, do some of those firemen or administrators of the fire department do this while they're not fighting fires, like on the off time?
No, they do not. They're not certified staff to do inspections, and it's a union issue.
And is Mark still allocated half of his duties
Half of his duties to emergency management, yes.
and the other half to this?
Yes.
Okay.
And can we talk about the capital budget, or is it too early for that?
Well, we were about to go to that.
Yeah.
But revenue first, right? Revenues are up 3%, that's just more inspection revenue.
Yep, we raised our fees as of January. So in conjunction with the building department, permit fees were increased. We still are at 1/2 of the building fee, so building department is $15 per $1,000 of value, so we're $750. In addition on any commercial building permits.
We're only doing fire marshal capital. We'll do fire capital.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, separate.
Yeah.
I was just looking for all the cars that were getting replaced.
But it's only, I think it's only 6,000
It's
for turnout
6,000.
gear.
I'm talking about the cars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cars.
Well, I think on the vehicles, while you're there, I know Jen is looking at pooling vehicles so to be more efficient townwide with vehicles, which is why there's not a proposed vehicle
Yeah,
in the other, for the other position.
that was my question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious how many cars this represents and how that matches up to number of people that need them.
And you recall the renovation for this person was in the Public Works budget.
Right, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, any other, the only, on capital, it's a $6,200 request for turnout gear.
It is not firefighting turnout gear, it is the gear that we use for fire investigation work. So it's a step down from standard firefighting gear, so it's not as expensive.
Right.
But it still has to be
I
replaced.
did notice there was a difference in price. Okay. And I just had a quick question on mobile and portable radios. I know that got taken out and is going to maybe be put in next year. And this relates to a lot of the other fire departments.
So that was taken out with the vehicle.
Okay. But with regard to mobile and portable radios, is there consistency between fire department, police department? Like we have a lot of portable radio replacements in different budgets, and I just want to make sure, does everyone talk to each other about other radios?
Types of radios that we have, yes.
Okay,
We are on multiple different frequencies.
okay,
So the police have 2 frequencies that are encrypted that cannot be monitored by the general public. EMS has a frequency and the fire department has 2 frequencies. So and then we have a townwide frequency that we are able to all talk to each other in the event we needed to.
but in terms of cost of replacement, are we,
They're all based off I think it's the state of Connecticut bid through Motorola.
okay.
And so some of those radios were meant to be in the cars, or were they all portable?
In this year's request, it was going to be a mobile and a portable for the vehicle, to go with the
So
vehicle.
that's why it got pushed. So if one comes back, the other will come back.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So we're going to move on next to EMS services, and we have representatives of Post that are here. If you guys wanted to come up to the table, that would be great. So just a reminder, everyone, this is the first year that we're talking to Post about their budget and so forth. While we've had EMS services by way of the contract that SEM's in the budget for a number of years now, Post has approached us regarding some help on their operating side of the budget. So Melinda and I met with Peter and Jeff and a few other members of the board, I think about 2 weeks ago, and were very gracious. I think spent 2.5, 3 hours. Got to see around the facility itself. They walked us through a lot of materials they put together. Got to see some of the kids and so forth. And so we asked them to come here today to kind of present and talk about some of the additional information. I sent you all around some of the additional reports and budget and historical financials they put together. So Peter, if I could, let me turn it over to you a little bit. I think we're all very familiar with POST, but if you want to give us a little bit of an overview, I think that's always good to hear.
Perfect. We'd love to. And as you said, it's our first time here, so we're actually very excited to get to present to the town of Darien what we think is one of the greatest organizations in our town. Nationally recognized, award-winning EMS service. We'll just do quick introductions, and I'm going to turn it over to Joe. So again, my name is Peter Ostberg. I'm the chairman of POST. I've been the chairman for the last 5 years. I've been on the board for a total of 6 years. More importantly, I have 4 boys, all of whom have served 4 years at POST. One of them is now a doctor, one is a public health person, and my youngest son is still an adult advisor. So we're highly connected to POST 53 for a number of years.
Hello, my name is Dawn Edgar. I'm an adult advisor at POST. I've been an adult advisor since 2017. Became a driver of the ambulance in 2018. I'm a certified EMT. I started working in the fundraising area at POST in 2017, 2018. So I've done the food fair, Nielsen's event, annual appeals for the past 8 years, many as a solo volunteer. I've done the donor website management, newsletters, constant contact, pretty much anything that is in the office I've probably touched. Publicity, and it just became kind of overwhelming in terms of a workload for a volunteer, which we will talk about later in our presentation. I'm now the treasurer. I work with the accountant. I'm on the POST 53 board, have been on there for, I think, 7 years. And I now work more with the budgeting and the payment side.
I'm Joe Larshevek. I have the privilege of being the director of POST 53. I was brought in October of 2018 and have held that title since. Prior to that, I did have a connection to POST. Started as a sort of training coordinator and helping out with their QA oversight in 1995. Got to really fall in love with the organization through my time doing that, and was very honored to come in as the director.
Randy Heck, I'm on the board of POST 53 for the last 10 or 12, 14 years. I'm also the head of the board of the Friends of POST 53.
So just to start off, as all of you know, POST has been ingrained in this community. We're 56 years strong. We're one of the 3 public safety 911 responses, along with the police and fire department. We provide essential emergency medical and ambulance transport services to our residents and guests 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do it currently with 88 high school students and roughly 60 adult advisors, all volunteers. Beyond responding to almost 2,000 calls annually, we also provide CPR, first aid, overdose awareness training, stop the bleed training to the public, to businesses, to organizations throughout the town. We do joint training with the police department, the fire department, everything from water rescue to vehicle extrication, things that we work side by side with them on every day. And we're out there in the community. Our food fair is really our sentinel event that draws thousands of people to Tilly Pond every Memorial Day. We also do a Halloween haunted house. We do the Nielsen's event, as Dawn mentioned. So we're at it, providing medical standby coverage for the town fireworks, athletic events at the high school, and we try to make sure that we're out there and visible and providing essential service to Darien. Last year, we did 1,966 calls, transported 1,363 people to our 3 local hospitals, Norwalk, Stamford, and Greenwich. Our average response time is 6.6 minutes, which is outstanding for a suburban community. And our volunteers donated over 88,000 hours. So to replace, if for some reason it ended tomorrow and paid people had to come in and staff ambulances, it would be a significant expense. to cover what our outstanding volunteers do. You know, we've seen a significant rise in call volume. You know, when I first came in the mid-90s, I think we did about 800, 900 calls a year. You know, like I said, now we're close to 2,000 calls a year. We've seen a 25% increase just post-COVID. You know, from everything that we have measured metric-wise, we don't expect that to change. We think that that rise in volume will continue as Darien continues to grow. And certainly that puts a strain, right? It puts a strain on the organization as a whole, on all of our volunteers, teenagers and adults who, you know, are going out more often than they ever have before, responding to calls more often. It's you know, increased our staffing needs. It's increased our training needs to get everybody, you know, sort of up to that quality of excellence that we require. And it's certainly sort of, you know, pushed our organization forward much faster than we ever thought we would. You know, another area just that we are seeing a boom in is cost to assisted living facilities. You know, back in the day, we had Metaplex of Darien, which was a small residence, and now we have 3 assisted living facilities. You know, 2 of which have you know, significant number of their residents who require our services. So that has also caused an increase in our call volume. And Peter, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, just quickly, so part of why we're here now is 2 years ago, the Board of Post decided that we needed to spend a little bit more time on a long-term plan, some strategic planning, more than just a one-year budget cycle. So we started that. We ended up engaging a team called the Harvard Business School Community Partners. They're a pro bono group of Harvard MBAs that do this work. They had worked for other institutions in our town prior to that. So we engaged them in April of 2024, and they wrapped up their work in November of 2024 to look through really all aspects of Post 53 and provided a deck with recommendations. 2 of the most salient recommendations that they made was, 1, we were overtaxing the adult advisors and the student members with quote-unquote administrative tasks, taking their time away from serving as an EMT, which is really what we should be doing. And they recommended, the recommendation was to alleviate that by selectively hiring some paid support at Post 53 to cover those administrative tasks. And then the other thing, they looked at our building, they looked at our overall funding model, and they recommended that we needed to have a more sustainable funding model. We had looked at other options for billing for basic BLS, which we don't do here in town. As you know, we pay for advanced life saving through SEMS, but we've never billed through basic life service. We decided not to do that. We thought it would change the culture, both at Post 53 and the town. And so the recommendation from our group was that we should approach the town to see if they could help us with a portion of our operating budget for Post 53. And that's why we're here. Just to follow up on what Joe said on the 3rd bullet point, you know, we do not think this is a temporary increase in call volume in our town or in, you know, kind of stress on the Post 53 organization. So with the additional real estate that is coming in town, we would expect that there will be further increases in call volume. So again, this is not, we don't think this is a blip. We think this is more structural in our town. Talk about the academic and extracurricular challenges we face as well.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, especially post-COVID, is, you know, our kids' lives are just much busier now. Their expectations at the high school, athletic expectations, extracurriculars, have all seemed to increase. You know, we've had to sort of adjust as an organization, you know, to make sure that we can continue to staff our 3 ambulances and make sure that we have the personnel at the ready. But it certainly has, you know, sort of created a pinch point for us. And, you know, we're very fortunate in, you know, that we get 100 applications a year roughly to come join Post. There's a significant investment in, you know, the family's time and the teenagers' time. Also, obviously, in our time and getting them trained and prepared. But you know, we've looked at increasing our numbers, trying to get more people in to sort of balance that. But there is definitely a demand on our kids' time outside of post that has just sort of put a little bit of a strain on our organization. And, you know, one of the things with call volume that was interesting to me, you know, we could talk about the number of calls and average of calls, but, you know, one of the stats that I found incredible is last year, there were 5 days last year where we did 10 or more calls in a 24-hour period. That was unheard of, right? And then before that, you know, you might have had one a year, if that. In the first 2 months of this year, we've had 5 days with 10 or more calls. So that to me is a big indicator that this is going to continue.
I think you already touched on, yeah, do you want to touch on a little bit on the adults?
As I said before, through the study with the Harvard Business School and just even from my own personal experience, there was a need to alleviate some of the administrative burden on the adult advisors, on some of the administrative tasks that take to run an organization of this size with this call volume in the town of Darien. So, you know, to restore the focus on delivering EMS, we need our adult advisors on the crews supervising the young adults, and that's where their focus needs to be. And enable us to do that, we need to outsource and pay for some of the services that were previously run by our volunteers, which would be, you know, from what we're asking for the town, which we now have a full-time executive director. When I first started, it was a volunteer fielding calls 24/7. A part-time marketing and fundraising person to take a lot of the pressure off of myself and be able to manage that for post, and a part-time repairs and maintenance. We also have an IT person to help us in the back office piece. We have an accountant who has really helped raise the bar in terms of our financials, our budgeting, and also working with me in terms of managing the financial aspects of post.
So all of this has resulted in significant cost increases at Post over the last number of years, to roughly 30% since '23 to this year's budget. Paid support in particular, as is obvious, has gone up. The other thing that came out of the Harvard study is that there were some training tools that could be helpful to the organization. So we budgeted for 2026 $245,000 in a paging system, which obviously is for the building, and then new mannequins and driving simulators. So these are capital expenditures that are really more operationally driven, not, you know, building driven. And there will be items like that will likely come up in the future. Turning to the next page, so our total budget, and I think, Jim, does everybody have the full detailed P&L that we sent to you guys?
Yes.
Perfect, okay. So that should show the detail, but it adds up to roughly $1.2 million for the 2026 budget. The way we think about that in terms of the funding sources is $590,000 of post fundraising, so direct fundraising from Post 53. Just to be clear, 100% of any donation that comes into Post 53 goes to Post 53 and not to Friends. I think it's different at the library, but every dollar comes into Post. And then Friends of Post 53, which is a separate legal entity. It has a roughly $10 million endowment, and that has been supporting the deficit until this year, and hopefully with the help of the town, it can reduce that support a little bit. But we still anticipate roughly $300,000 of support from Friends. And then we're asking the town for $360,000 to cover a couple of positions, which I'll show on the next page. It's worth noting, like Joe said, you know, the annual value of the donated services runs to $2 million, which is obviously significant to the town of Darien. And Friends owns the building at Zero Ledge Road and does not charge rent for that. And the rent that's imputed by our accountant is roughly $230,000, which, again, had it been a commercial relationship, Post would have had to pay for as well. Very important, and we have thought through this to try to make this more understandable. Maybe that's the right word. So we're only asking for 30% roughly of the budget, and we're asking for support for 4 individual people or positions. So one is Joe, by far the most significant of it. Joe is on a 6-year contract that we signed last year as Joe transitioned from a SEMS employee that was leased to the town or to Post to a now full-time employee at Post. He's our only full-time employee at Post 53. Then we have, as Dawn mentioned, an outsourced CFO, Melissa O'Brien. We budgeted roughly 10 hours per week, and I think we pay her $100. We pay her $100 an hour. We have a part-time repairs and maintenance person, a former postie, and we budgeted him for 10 hours a week, I think at $37 or $35 an hour. And that was to alleviate some of the deferred maintenance and just watching the building and the vehicles to make sure we don't essentially waste money on unnecessary maintenance. And then finally, we have an outsourced IT resource that Dawn mentioned. The reason we identified these 4 items were, one, we thought they were easily identifiable, and we do not expect that these 4 individual or the dollars associated with this are going to fluctuate very much. We appreciate that we don't want a lot of fluctuation. If we come back next year, there probably will be an increase. Joe's contract probably goes up by 2%, 3%, 4%, something in that neighborhood. So there will be an increase, but it's not related to ambulance call volume, the types of calls, or anything like that. And I'm sure we'll get into more questions on this. But I also wanted to point out, equally importantly, what we're not asking the town for. So we're not asking the town for roughly $880,000 of support for the 2026 budget. So that includes the operating costs we just talked about at high level. You have the detail. Obviously, the annual value of the volunteers or the rent. And not either major building, so Friends owns the building, they're responsible for the building and major upgrades, maintenance for that. We are not asking for any support for ambulances, which roughly run $300,000 per ambulance. We obviously know the fire department comes to you guys occasionally. We have been fortunate that ambulances and fly cars, the next item, have been donated by generous families in our town. So that's been great. And then recently we updated or upgraded our special operations vehicle, which I think is going to be put in service not too long from now. And that has been also a donation. We've gotten excellent support from the Darien Foundation over the years in supporting Post 53, and the special ops vehicle has been significantly supported by them. As I mentioned, when we had the Harvard guys in, one of the things they identified was that our building is getting old. It's 38 years old. It has had a lot of deferred maintenance type issues that are costing a fair bit of money every year. So the recommendation was to put together a group to study whether we should renovate, upgrade the facility, and or literally tear it down and build a new one. We just very preliminarily started the work. We met with David Genovese a couple of times to get his feel. He obviously has some insight at this area. We have a very preliminary budget estimate in the $7 million range. That is clearly extremely preliminary. But I mention that because, yes, we have $10 million at Friends, but most likely a lot of that will be spent. It won't be spent next year likely, but maybe the year after, as we have to upgrade this building at some point. I think we'll leave it on the next page of the presentation, is the actual summary numbers. We thought we would leave that up, but I think it's probably more appropriate if you guys have questions on the detailed numbers that you have, or questions in general.
I guess one question I have is, in 2025, you had this large standalone donation of over $420,000. Was that from a single donor, and is that a restricted donation, or what led to that? And because just looking at the math, Friends had been funding $460 in 23, $560 in 24, but down to $29 in 25 because you got that donation. Is that a way of thinking about it or not?
Two answers. Just in terms of the number dropping, one of the things we did in connection with Joe coming on board full-time was we transferred Joe from having been, the lease, it literally was a lease agreement with SEMS, was paid at Friends.
Okay.
But as Joe became an employee, we moved Joe to Post 53 as a full-time employee. So that's where you see a major switch in those two.
That happened in 25?
Correct. 25 is the first year, post 53 covered Joe directly. And then I think in terms of the donations, I think there might have been 3 separate donations.
Yes, one was a bequeath that was unexpected, that was $273,000, and then the other 2 pieces, which is not restricted, there's $100,000 that was also unrestricted, a large gift, and then there's a grant that from a family that we receive every year, depending on what equipment they would like to fund.
Okay, thank you.
When you look at setting the Friends of Post endowment aside, when you look at sort of the revenue, like the fundraising that you're bringing in each year and some of the training courses and so forth that you guys should derive revenue from, what would you do with the cash when it was greater than what your annual expenses were and you did not have to dip into the Friends budget?
So I think it depends a little bit, what we have talked about, and Randy can talk about this more, is the Friends board has preliminarily discussed kind of a draw situation so that we would come up with a number, call it maybe 3% of the assets, and literally transfer to Post 53 each quarter. However, if it turns out, like we now had last year, significant unique donations, I'm not so sure that that makes a whole lot of sense to keep transferring money from Friends, which is generally invested in the market, to leave it at Post in a bank account. So it will depend. I mean, one of the things we're very cognizant of, we can't rely upon this wonderful widow who gave us, close to $300,000, and/or this other Lady W, who has been, W I think it is, who funded an ambulance for us as well. So, there will be swings in our cash flow. And there's never been a transfer from Post to Friends. It's always been the other way around. So Post might have a cash balance, but then it will be used the next year most likely.
You mean the transfer's always been from Friends of Post to Post?
Correct. There's never been a cash transfer from Post to Friends.
Got it. So in terms of, so basically the paid employees are, you have the executive director, you're going to have a few sort of part-time between finance, marketing, maintenance, and IT?
Yes. Marketing and maintenance, we actually did not put into the request of the town because we felt that that was very directly related to our own fundraising, so we figured that that should be kept separate. So yes, there are 2 people now that are doing part-time marketing and fundraising at Post to alleviate a lot of what Dawn used to do.
And all of the fundraising you're doing now is for Post, not for going into the Friends of Post endowment?
Correct.
Okay. And then in terms of other, I saw so there is some paid additional sort of part-time help over the summer?
So that's probably, is that grad reserves?
Yep.
Yes. Maybe you guys can just explain that better, and I can.
Yeah, so we do, when our high school kids graduate and go off to college, one of the issues that we sometimes run into is the junior class that is now kind of ready to step up might not have enough drivers in their group, or there's areas to fill in those sort of times when staffing gets a little rough in the summertime and during certain breaks. So we will we would provide a stipend to our college kids to come back and spend time and work at Post. Thanks to the Harvard Business School, we've sort of changed that model now and brought them in as W-2 per diem employees, so they would, they don't have the tax burden, a 1099 sort of consultant would have. So we still, we're pretty selective on kind of who we bring back, but they do come and they fill a lot of the shifts that really, before we had them, we would have to have an outside company come in and staff those shifts for us. So we would rely on Stanford EMS to come in, and we would be paying, 15% above their premium overtime rate. So it was, close to sometimes $60, $75 an hour.
And they would be staffing as sort of a driver?
Exactly.
Not staffing as a paramedic?
No, just because we're only a basic service, their EMTs would come and fill in as a driver or as a supervisor when we were short in that area. I think one of our biggest sort of achievements is we really lessened that need to call them in. I can't remember the last time I think we had a Stanford EMS employee have to staff our building.
Got it. And then in terms of, SEMS, which SEMS, it's Stanford EMS, that's also a 501c sort of nonprofit institution,
Correct.
right? So in terms of how the town uses them, just to make sure we all sort of understand it correctly, is that we should think about Post 53 is providing transport and they're providing basic
Correct.
life support. Whenever there's a call for a paramedic, which sort of equates to advanced life support, that's part of the town's contract that we have with Stanford EMS. And under that contract, maybe just refresh me, they're required to keep, is it one paramedic in Darien at a specific location inside 06820 at all times?
Correct. So the town entered into a contract with Stanford EMS to provide that one paramedic. It resides at 701 Post Road, which is over by Academy, where the Royal is now. And that contract exists solely between the town and Stanford EMS. What Post does is, because of some regulatory issues in the way that they bill, the transporting ambulance service has to provide the bill. That's just how it works. So we bill on behalf of that town contracted paramedic. So when you receive a bill for a paramedic level call, it says Post 53 on the top, and a lot of people think, oh, Post 53 is now charging us money. But we try to make it clear underneath, unfortunately not in as big a print as we would like, that this is, this is really a pass-through for us. So all the money that we collect from the insurance company, or a private payer, gets passed right on through to Stanford EMS. And so Stanford EMS takes that money, and then at the end of the cycle, and Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the town then makes up the difference between what the contracted amount should be and what the billing is.
Yep, quarterly.
Yeah.
And if the contract, if the amount that Post billed for the ALS was greater than what we were paying Stanford, would that come back to us, or would Stanford keep it?
I think that's a question for the town, but I would think they would have to give it back.
I think it does come back to us.
So-
Last
so-
year was a net of 8,000, and I doubt
Yeah.
that was four quarters of 2,000. I assume there was a negative in there.
And that net has decreased. Maybe if you could maybe just confirm whether or not like the economic beneficiary of that is the town, or what?
I believe it is, yeah. It's rare that it stays negative for a whole
No,
year,
that's
though.
not true.
Really?
It's never been positive. It's always been a net negative.
A net revenue?
No, it's always been an expense for
Right,
us.
correct.
You're saying the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
The revenue that we've collected
He's just
on the
talking
individual
about accounting
transports,
terms.
where there's an ALS, has always been less than the contract that we
Yes.
pay
Yes.
to Stanford.
Sorry.
That degree that
That
it's
actually
been
makes
less
sense.
has decreased over time, and it's got close last year, but that contract continues to go up, but it's always
That's right.
been a sort of
Yeah.
net cost to the town.
I don't know if I'd say it has been decreasing over time. Last year was definitely kind of a standout. This year, I think, is slowly moving back towards,
And remember, it's very dependent on your payer mix.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't always know what your payer mix is gonna be. And like if you get a bunch of self-insured, self-pay people, that you're not going to collect as much.
Well, I think there's two things. There's what, like, somebody like Medicare might pay, what their contracted rate of pay is,
But it's
and then there's a
small.
collection rate, what that
Well,
is.
Medicare and Medicaid don't pay well. So you might collect a lot of it, but the reimbursement rate is very small.
Medicare
So-
roughly pays $530 of the total. I think it's now $1,600 is what the paramedic charge is. So, then it's up to us that at some point, or our billing agent, to figure out how to bridge that gap. But a lot of times people just can't pay it, so we'll accept and disallow the rest, and accept that $536, and then again that goes to the town, and Medicaid's even less. So
Is that 1,600 that is billed for a transport with an ALS, is that comparable to what Stanford charges?
yeah, it's actually the Stanford EMS state approved rate, because it's not, we don't necessarily have any of the money come to
Yeah.
us. So
And
Stanford
ALS
EMS has
is advanced
to-
life support?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
ALS.
ALS, right, so
Advanced
whatever
life
their
support.
rate is for paramedic service in Stanford is what we bill for the
Yeah,
Darien
this is
contract.
state.
Got it. And what percentage of the, I think you said close to 2,000 calls is a paramedic, is ALS being
About
dispatched?
48% of our transports are paramedic calls, and it seems to have dipped a little bit this year, so. When a call comes in, just so everybody's aware, when you call 911, you're gonna be asked a series of questions, and sometimes when you're waiting for help to come, those questions could seem a little bit annoying, but what they're trying to do is determine the best help you need. So that's when they determine if the paramedic is gonna be sent on the call or not, based on what the complaint is and how serious it is. So, the paramedic will get dispatched to roughly, I would say about, half, maybe a little less than half of our calls. And for the most part, they will ride in on all of those. It's rare that we'll request them to come from to the scene. The dispatch protocol is pretty good, so, but that's how it works.
And we're
So-
getting billed $1,600 per call for that
Yes,
paramedic.
that's.
So if on a day like 10 calls, 5 of them have a paramedic, that's an $8,000 billing day to us for that paramedic.
Not necessarily a collection day, but a billing day, yes.
Billing day, yes.
So rolling out for the full year, if we have 2,000 calls and half of which have a paramedic on it, that's about 1.6 million.
Yeah. I think the number, you had it on the.
Yeah, I think we might be a little bit high. I think last year, 2025 was 636 calls with the paramedic.
Yeah.
Now, that meant that they.
Right, so 2,000 calls, we did 1,363 total transports. So, a lot of times we show up and then the person doesn't want to be transported, we get a refusal, or there was no patient to begin with. But out of the 1,363, SEMS rode in on 626, which seems a little lower than usual.
Okay.
Actually, that was the amount that they billed.
Was it?
Yeah, so it might be different, came from that analysis that we get from the administrator, so it could be that they showed up differently. That was what the town was charged. We charged for 626.
If we look at your fundraising line, we have 3 years of actual plus a budget, 2 budget lines. If we were to go back 3 to 5 to 10 prior years, does that number go up steadily every year? I mean, I've been on boards of not-for-profits that rely on fundraising, and it's a tough place to be, but it's a necessary place to be for not-for-profits. So, and hopefully you've got stability in that line because it's granular. And so can you just comment on that?
It has gone up since I've been there by small amounts, and then, we have been able to get support for supervisor vehicles, which might not show up on the line of unrestricted donations, but we have been able to get the supervisor vehicles funded, ambulances funded. But even on the unrestricted line, it has been able to grow. 2020 was a big year in terms of COVID. Lots of people were much more aware of the local EMS service in town. And then once they donate, we track sort of the recurring donations, the ones who stay donors, and once they contribute, a lot of them continue to donate.
So maybe just sort of definitionally on the bottom, when you talk about the non-recurring revenue, the sort of standalone donations, how do you define that? Is that donations where that individual only made one donation sort of in the last 10 years?
Or maybe
So the
restricted?
standalone donation, we were trying to really just, it was mostly to separate out the bequeath, which was a large donation
Got
that will not be repeated, at least
And all
not knowingly.
423 of that was the bequeath, or is that a few of them?
So 273, then there was 100, again, from Lady W to fund other supplies or equipment. And then there was a $50,000 large donation in that one as well. But they're sort of one-off donations. Most of our donations, the highest they get is maybe 10 would be a high one. Most of them are, I would say, hover around 5 and below.
These aren't granular and they're not repeatable. They might repeat, but you can't budget.
Right, you can't budget for those.
Back to the fundraising line. So in '26, so the 360 is kind of a place where Friends contributes, Post generates revenue, and then the town would come in with it. If the fundraising exceeded your budget, how would you divvy that overage? How would you think about that? Let's say instead of, what is the number, 534? Yeah, 534 in your 26 budget. What if it's 634? What if you have $100,000 more fundraising than you had budgeted for? What do you do with that?
I think we keep it in the bank. I mean, it would be a great thing. One of the things that happened last year as we did hire 2 individuals to focus more directly on marketing and fundraising, you notice that the fundraising, our donations in 2025 were really good. Hopefully there's a cause and effect there and that we can continue to look to increase that number. What I'm more worried about is the flip side. If we have some downturn, there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and we actually are not as successful, and I think the clear understanding from our part is if that happens, then that's when Friends needs to step up. Our idea is not to come back to you guys and say, well, listen, we were 100 or 200 short this year. Now it's 560 instead of 360. So we're very cognizant that, we are asking for some support, but to the extent there's fluctuations in any other item, funding a new ambulance, more equipment, whatever that is going to be on, on our fundraising, and we'll lean on Friends. Easy for me to say, we'll lean on Randy.
So
But that's really, go ahead.
I was saying, 2025, like when I look at that, Friends didn't provide any support on the operational side, right?
Minimal.
Minimal.
Or sorry, minimal.
Correct.
But it looked like you had a shortfall. So did that just come out of cash on hand?
Probably cash
inside
on
of
hand.
Post?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know how it works at the library, but I mean, Post is a very, very closed system when it comes to fundraising, expenses, all that, and, and so Friends is a very also defined entity.
Yep.
As I said, they will transfer money to Post as needed, which has always been the case. They'll hopefully be a little bit less going forward, but that's kind of the idea.
Roughly a month ago, when you were in front of the Board of Selectmen, there was some discussion about a grant agreement memorializing, how this would work. Has that discussion advanced at all?
So John gave me a copy of the agreement. We've sent it to our lawyers at Finn Dixon. They've looked through it. We got a copy of the draft agreement that I don't think has been finalized, but the draft of the library agreement. That's a little bit different, right? Because the library is different. So both we and our lawyers said, listen, we're happy to enter into that kind of an agreement between Post, Friends, and the town. We think it probably could be simpler in the sense that very simplistically, it will say, listen, we'd like the town to support these 4 items. Everything else is our problem, in a sense, right? And we understand, we talked about, I think, at the Board of Selectmen meeting, some cadence of coming back to visit with you or whomever, to give you an update as to how the year is going, whether it's KPI, numbers, whatever. So we recognize that part. So if there is a updated draft, or if there's something we should start thinking about specifically for Post, we're happy to get that done.
I have a question on the 4 positions that you want to fill. Is the objective to alleviate pressure off of the volunteer base so that maybe you're focusing more, your volunteers can focus more on what they're trained to do as well as the fundraising? So if you have someone really more acting as the executive director, running the operations, doing the financial piece of it, is there an expectation that your more focused efforts on marketing and fundraising would actually result in more dollars? So that's what I'm getting at. Like, if this sounds like you could possibly, the goal would be to raise more money, right?
No doubt.
So I think maybe Jim was touching on it, but if you end up having your fundraising revenue start to climb, where are we? I guess we have to think of as a town. Are we, if you, let's say you jump to $1 million a year, do you still need town support, right?
That's where I was going with
Yeah,
the fundraising
so
thing.
like-
Yeah, if you have $100,000 surplus in fundraising or overage.
Exactly.
And I think what Peter had said is that sits in cash, but
So think of it as
it could reduce the town's contribution. That's an option. It could
Right.
reduce the Friends' contribution.
Right.
Or it could sit in cash.
Well, the other thing too is, as we talked about the increase in volume, and we've already, had to make several adjustments to, increase our fleet size. The state licensed a certain number of ambulances per organization. We're licensed for 3. What we've realized is with the volume we have now, our 3 ambulances are always in service and always running. We need to add a 4th because we need some redundancy. What do we do if an ambulance goes out of service or goes for maintenance for a day or 2? Adding that other vehicle, outfitting it, all of that I think is things that as we look sort of, I wouldn't even call it a long-term plan, just sort of more of a strategic view in the next few years of, where are our operational expenses going to go? They're going to go into doing these things and adding these things to make sure we can continue to meet the demand and continue to serve because, it's, like I said, it's only getting busier.
Can I ask just how many ambulances Stamford has and how many calls that they do?
Stamford has 5 ambulances on during the day. They have, I believe, 9 or 10 total, so they have 4 or 5 spares. And the last I knew of their call volume, I think they're around 18,000 calls a year.
Sorry, go ahead.
So that's what I was curious. It just seems like 4 is a lot for us.
Well, I would just say that, like, one of ours just had the turbo system down, and it was out for 3 months, out of service for post. So we were down to 2 ambulances because we had sort of already taken the license off the one when we got a new one. So we were down to 2 ambulances for that entire time. And just knowing that they are getting older, they do require more maintenance, they are out of service more. We want to, Joe can talk about it, but we want to take one and send it out to have it all remounted, like the box refurbished and remounted on a new truck. So then that one will be out of service for upwards of close to.
Yeah. And the other difference too is services like Stamford EMS. They have a full-time mechanic and 2 or 3 part-time mechanics. So a turnaround repair on their vehicles is much quicker. For us, we've tried to sort of outsource our repairs locally. So East Coast of Stamford has been doing a lot of our work. But if it's ambulance specific, if it's something that the manufacturer needs to look at, the closest dealer is in Manchester. So that ambulance goes somewhere up in the center of the state. And we've had instances where we've lost an ambulance for excuse me, a month, 2 months. Waiting for the repair to be done.
So how will having the repair person help? Will it help?
So we're hoping from a preventative standpoint, making sure that the ambulances are inspected regularly, the preventative things, all the oil work, anything that comes with just sort of stopping problems before they start is going to be a big help. And we'll continue to obviously have to outsource our technical mechanic work, but having this person, like I said, to hopefully get filters and fluids and things done is going to help us reduce some of those costs.
So is the expectation that this maintenance individual, will he be changing tires, changing oil, fixing fans, radiators, or is he just more checking oil pressure?
I think at the time it's more the latter. We had talked about, do we need to have a certified, mechanic, to do, but we don't also have the facilities for a lot of that. And we certainly, also have a population in our building that, I don't know if I want them around any sort of those types of items in the garage. So, for now, it's more right that they're going to be kicking the tires, checking tire pressure, checking wear, replacing light bulbs, fixing those things, identifying that, hey, there might be an issue. I checked this oil last week, it was low, I added some, it's low again. I think all of that is going to help in bringing us to a more stable place with our vehicles. And again, we've been very fortunate. Our ambulances are in great shape. They are close to 10 years old now, and they get a lot of wear and tear.
So given, it sounds like one of the biggest things that came out of your study was the need to make some type of investment in a facility. So what is your timing, do you think, in terms of determining whether you sort of remodel or rebuild or look for a new location, and whether that location, back to Joe's point about the number of trucks, whether we need to have 2, 3, 4, or like, when do you expect to have that sort of longer-term capital plan done?
So it's on our plan, our board plan to plan it this year. We've been busy with other things, so we have not had a chance. And then, in fairness, David Genovese has been kind enough to want to help us, and he's been busy with other stuff, so I think he's getting up for air. So we'll sit down this year, hopefully over the summer, to study what's possible. It's not, as you know, it's a strange site. It's hard to think about tearing Post 53 down and building something new on that site. If that doesn't work, what do we do? So there's some work to be done, but the facility is obviously not ADA compliant. It lacks garage space for our vehicles, which is a pain in the neck in the wintertime when the fly cars need to be outside and the adult advisors, supervisors have to go out. So we would like to expand it, both on the garage side and on the interior side. I think anytime you touch that building, it might be better to replace it, but we don't know yet. So I think that in the next couple of years, this will, be something we need to do. It's not 10 years out. Can I just go back to, sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
How big is that lot?
Oh, the lot is like 0.67 acres, I think. It's leased, we lease it from a combination of the town and the state because of the railroad and the highway and everything, under a 99-year lease, so that's a long time.
Josh, is that part of our overall train station lots lease?
I'd have to check on that.
Okay.
I had sent Josh to the first selectman the updated survey and title search, which he has, so I'm happy to send it to you as well. So those are hard to read, but you might be able to figure that out. But just back to Jenny's point a little bit, which I think is important to understand that, so we have an operating budget where we have a deficit. Most of it will, we will then, let's say we split it 3 ways, just for argument's sake right now. If we are really successful in fundraising, which we clearly hope we're going to be, that means that we can pay for an ambulance. There's nothing in these budgets. I mean, we got very lucky 2 years ago that Lady W donated a full ambulance, $300 and some odd thousand, specifically for an ambulance. Last year we got very lucky with the one woman who donated or bequeathed the $270 some odd thousand to us. In general, if we need a new ambulance, we need to go out and make an additional effort on fundraising. So should it be that we pick up another $100,000 one year, that just puts us, closer to getting a new ambulance, and they need to be replaced on a regular basis, or it's fly cars or special ops vehicles. So I appreciate that it might look like we have more money than we need, but I think it's quite the reverse. That if you look at all the rolling stock that we need, we're constantly looking to fundraise.
Got it.
I'm trying to shore up the numbers that I see on the screen with what we got as the financial presentation, and I don't see the same numbers. The 1.2 odd million in annual expenses doesn't show up on this. Which one is correct?
So it's really a mix, because the reason the number should add up, and I think if you take the expenses, which is $994,000 plus the 245, that should be 2.39. So
I
1
think
million.
they're misstated here. Then we need to get it corrected. That the capital expenditures on the financial presentation are wrong for 25 and 26.
They're probably quote unquote below the line because we treat them as non-recurring.
Well, they're different amounts. It says on the screen 126 in 25 and 245 in 26, and on here 176 and $440,800.
Which other one is she looking at?
So you're looking at the detail?
Yes.
No, yeah, so that one, let's see what the detail is. Hey, that's just an Excel issue if that's, so sorry, which line are you looking at, Taylor? On the,
Non-recurring expenses under the 126.
Yeah, like the 170.
She's looking at capital expenditures here, these two numbers.
Right, so the reason for that is that we've taken out the ambulance. Because we don't consider the ambulance we consider as a separate, we don't consider the ambulance as operating capital expenditures. They are, episodic, right? So that's why we took those out. I don't know if I don't have a calculator in front of me, but I don't know if that makes the math work.
That math works.
So basically, you're saying the difference is non-ambulance CapEx
Correct, so we're kind of focusing on what does the
Not building,
organization
right,
need for
it's
training
operating.
purposes,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
mannequins and that kind of stuff on the one hand, versus fly cars and ambulances on the other.
And so the identical charges for the paging and the mannequins in the last 2 years is not a mistake, that's the same both years?
Correct, and this is part of what came out of the Harvard study, again, in terms of we needed to upgrade, and this was, using, or working with the adult advisors, the student members, to see what does the organization need to really get, first-class training stuff. Joe, you could probably talk to this better than I can.
Yeah, and again, we had, for a long time, adequate training supplies that had just started to get older, and I think that, one of the outcomes of the Harvard study was a real sense from the membership of, what could really bring us to that next level, and, what do we need to make sure that we're, on our game training-wise, and some of the things that came back sort of in loud volume was, we need high simulation mannequins. We need to be able to, do really, good scenario work in the building. We need to put our drivers in, as real-life situations as we can, in a safe environment, and test their skills as they drive in different scenarios. So I think all of that, is, we looked at it, we said, okay, yes, we have a mannequin, but we need a better one. We need a newer one. We need to upgrade, and that's what we've put together a plan to do that.
I'm just so curious, how much does a mannequin cost?
Right now, probably about $50,000 to $60,000.
Wow.
For
These are AI.
These are right.
You get scenarios, so it basically responds when you talk to it. So it gives kids a lot better
They're not the
experience with
Recessa
the
and
patients.
plastic dolls that,
Yeah, it's not the
that we had
CPR
years
ones
ago, right?
where
These are,
it's
you're able to do skills on
full body
them.
mannequin.
They'll respond to your treatment. You can take vital signs on them. So, they really do sort of ramp up the experience.
Cool.
For accidents on 95 or the Merit, what is our obligation and what is the hierarchy of those responders to that accident?
So we respond regularly to the highway. We have gone to the Parkway for mutual aid to help New Canaan out on rare occasion. But primarily, we are several times a week up on the highway. So again, we respond with an adult supervisor, and the ambulance will go up there. Depending on the direction of travel, what lane it's in, we'll get Darien Fire Department or Norotan Heights who will assist us. But we have probably one of the most dangerous stretches of I-95 in the state, and like I said, it certainly produces a significant number of calls for us. We are up there quite often.
And your interaction with the state police, how does that work?
It's good. So the state police respond to all the calls up on the highway. We're also fortunate, Darien police are our first responders, so they will respond as well. Oftentimes the state trooper might be coming out of the Bridgeport barracks or from an accident in Greenwich. So they often don't show up right away, but we'll have Darien Police, Fire Department, us up there. But that's another area. Speaking of which, we just bought all new turnout gear. Highly reflective, high visibility turnout gear. A lot of our responses up there are at night, so we want to make sure that our crews are well seen and visible because they don't like to shut the highway completely down. So there's always some traffic.
On a personal note, I'd like to thank Post 53 because both my wife and I on separate incidents have been beneficiaries of your support.
Honored.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry, how many assisted living facilities are we supporting now?
So there are 3. There's Maplewood of Darien, which is 599 Post Road. Atria of Darien is 50 Ledge. And then you have the residence at Selleck's Woods, which is 1 Parklands Drive. That's the largest. I want to say it's 150 units, if I'm not mistaken. It's an expansive facility. So that by far, that opened, I want to believe, in the early 2020s, and that has, been our largest generator of call volume amongst those 3 facilities.
Yeah, with the call volume here, you can see how it just exploded in 2018,
Yeah.
right? We were under 100, and now we're trending toward
Yeah,
400.
as they started to reach capacity, you could really see it took off.
Sure, I think Rob and I have heard, like, gotten similar messaging from the police talking about, because they respond to every one of those calls, and so they look at the number of officers and the hours that their officers dedicate to it, that's gone up as well.
Right. You know, for example, I'm just looking at, 2012, where there might have been one, maybe 50 lead was open at the time, I don't know, but there was 28 total responses that year. Last year, 386 to assisted living facilities.
What's in the miscellaneous line item?
Which one? Revenue? or-
Kind of the first page.
Oh, total miscellaneous, 21,000. Oh, no, about, yeah.
Is this being treated as a grant?
Yes,
What's being proposed is
Being
yeah, being
proposed?
proposed as a grant should be similar to.
A grant for operating, strictly, not for capital?
No, it'd be a grant
Under
for,
expenses?
for
payroll.
specific uses.
Right.
One
Not
is
for
payroll,
capital.
I think the other ones aren't technically employees, right? They're just
They're-
1099, so.
Correct.
But it's more than payroll, right? It's benefits as well?
Yes,
Or should it be-
yes, and I think technically, so Joe is full-time. I think Ryan is an employee, from what I understand, so he gets paid as an employee, and the two others are 1099.
And so
Brian
those
Bing.
two have benefits, or,
No, I think the only one that's
Just Joe?
benefit is Joe, as far as I know.
and can you explain, so what program are you participating in on medical and retirement? Who's providing that benefit? Or what plan are you in?
It's
How is it?
Vestwell.
Pardon?
Vestwell is the name of the company. We literally just switched to it.
Yeah, the accountant
best way.
had to go look
For
for
a one-off.
someone.
For
for
one-off, it's
person,
hard
yes.
to find.
And that's for both? That's for healthcare and,
No.
No, retirement.
I took the healthcare through my wife's plan.
oh,
So that's not included, but
but there's a medical benefit number in here.
right, so I get compensated that goes to pay for that plan.
Okay, so the benefit, so the carrier is through your wife's
That's
plan,
right.
and we're reimbursing you for your share of the premiums,
Correct.
or Post is reimbursing you. And is that the same thing with retirement was Vestwell?
Right, so the retirement with Vestwell is a new account, so I get 8% contribution from Post, which is what I had originally at Stanford EMS, and then contribution as well.
So is it a matching contribution?
Yes,
Right, yes.
yes,
So that
at the end of the year.
that funding of your healthcare premium is subject to the premium increase from your wife's plan. Is that accurate?
I would say so. We're in the first 5 months of it, so there hasn't been any changes yet, but
Well, so I just had one question, just back on operations. So in the instance where one of the ambulances were down, and you have 3 calls, and then you only have 2 ambulances, what happens then for BLS? Where
So
does that
we
go to
would-
Stanford?
right, so we would rely on our mutual aid partners. So we have agreements with Stanford, New Canaan, and Norwalk. So it would depend primarily on where in the town that call was. If it's on the east side of town, then Norwalk Hospital EMS would respond. We would still send our supervisor in a quick response vehicle, and then they would come in and they would transport the person.
And in that case, whenever Stanford or Norwalk, sort of mutual aids, if you will, do they always bring a paramedic?
Not always. Norwalk does have some basic life support units. Stanford does as well. But for the most part, we will get a paramedic, just because I think those are the closest units that are stationed by their town lines.
Got it. And then do they bill on those?
They do. They bill on their own.
And they bill directly?
Yes. Yeah, that does not affect the town contract at all.
I'm going back to this benefit thing. I'm trying to tick and tie. So the 2026 budgeted total paid support number is 426,000.
Correct.
How does that, bridge that to 360 you're asking us from? What's the delta?
So the one is the $66,000 for the two individuals who do marketing and.
Okay, you mentioned that
Yep,
earlier. Okay,
yep.
so the 66 is not in the 360 request because it's more tied to fundraising.
Correct.
Thank you.
Can we go back just to miscellaneous, and then
Yeah.
also can you add what's in public relations?
And I may need to get back to you because my computer is not logging into the website and I'm having a difficult time getting the actual detail from the accounting records.
Do you have more from me?
Yeah, go to your Wi-Fi.
I tried.
Is there an open
There's-
Wi-Fi?
These
The
are both,
public, the town.
but it has a lock. So there must be,
There's town public.
I can share it with you.
Okay.
We could just, okay.
Okay.
Do the phone.
Yeah, you can come back to us on those questions,
Okay.
that's fine.
Jim, before you end, can I ask a couple of questions? Since we're going to have some to my committee as well.
Pardon me?
Can I ask them a couple of questions?
A couple. A couple, Jack, and if you have extra, we'll accumulate them, we'll combine them with ours and then
Okay.
bring it back to them.
Jack Davis, 197 Hoyt Street. Let me first say that my daughter was vice president of training at Post, so a lot of years ago. One of the things that I'm curious about, because we're going to have the library after you, but I haven't heard what a written agreement is between the Friends and Post. So there's very specific definitions at the library of what the Friends pick up and what Post picks up. So if there's agreement, I'd like to see that. I'd also like to see what the financials are. Like I've heard that, like you may have an endowment of 10 million. What does Post have? Because when I'm looking at this is a lot to ask. It's a rising amount. It's something new. When my daughter was there, I'm just saying the ambulances were all donated by the BMW. I'm assuming that stopped someplace along the line. But the other thing is I'm going to ask you to send something, you can write down my email address, is jdavis@dariencT.gov. I chair the F&B committee of the legislative body, and I'd like to also invite the Public Health and Safety Committee so that we can discuss this, because this is a major grant that's being initiated, and the RTM has to have an understanding. So those are my only two things at this time, but those documents, if they do exist, I'd like to see.
Should we
Jack, I
comment,
can-
or do we not want to wait?
Yeah, I can connect you guys.
You want-
Okay,
you want
fine.
to
Yeah,
comment?
just quickly, so, Jack, I think it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So there is no endowment at Post 53. Post 53 basically runs on a, kind of a
Right.
cash basis. So there's no quote-unquote endowment. The endowment does exist at Friends of Post
Right,
53.
that's where I expected.
Yep, exactly.
But on the same token, because you mentioned that they don't charge you rent, the Friends own the library, and they would never consider charging the library rent either. So that to me is a non-starter.
Yep. Yeah, no, we were not planning to do that. We just kind of made the point. If it were commercially, if somebody else owned the building, that obviously a lot of people.
In this case, to be clear, Post leases the building from, I guess, the state, and is reimbursed for the rent from
There's
Friends.
$1 for all of our, so the town of Darien plus the state, I think is like $1. So there really is no land expense at all for Post 53. And the building is rent-free. We have to put the rent in our financials as a non-cash activity.
Imputed, so that's the
Exactly.
200 and some odd thousand.
Correct. So,
That's
yeah.
a non-cash number.
And that is owned by Friends. Friends
That's owned
owns
by
the
Friends.
building.
Yeah.
Friends owns the
Structure.
building.
Friends owns
Thank
the
you.
building.
Okay, thanks for the
That's
clarification.
for your 990 or the financial reports, not for your actual expenses.
Right,
It's a GAAP expense, it's not an actual cash expense.
correct.
Okay. Well, any other questions up here? Well, listen, I know, obviously, Post is a very important organization in our town. I think you guys do an absolutely great job. It's a wonderful experience for the kids, great benefit for our community. While the dollars are not sort of large, I think what you're hearing from this board is, it's new, so that's why I think we're looking at it. We want to make sure we sort of understand it, sort of understand how that sort of fits in with our SEMS contract, how that fits in with like the fundraising that you're doing and so forth, just because, we try to look at, I think, all things, all grants, all organizations we interact with, I think really through the same lens, whether they're kind of small, medium, or large. And so that's really why I think, we're asking a lot of these questions, and appreciate your time with Melinda and I, about a week or two ago and tonight.
Good. I mean, if you have more questions, please let us know.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
guys very much.
Great, thank you.
I mean, I could probably give it a shot. It might just be easier. Is it
Yeah.
okay if I email you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's even here, it's for each year, I have to pull out the miscellaneous separately to just try to get you the right information, so.
So we send this to Jim?
Yeah, sure. And I'll connect
Yeah,
with
so then you
Jack
can
as well.
connect. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Next is the library. Very much appreciate your patience.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you want us up here?
No, because no one's here for that, but we'll go back.
Did you want me up here? I know sometimes you
Yeah, I
guys
think
can
that
talk
would be
amongst
great.
yourselves, but happy to.
Is there a deck?
Yep. Do you want to put up the library presentation?
So I
Is
did
that- is
email
that-
you, Josh, exactly what I had sent to the rest of the team here.
She might have to pass it next.
Do you have a PowerPoint?
I just sent it
Okay.
earlier to, yes. That is
No.
so, yeah.
I'm gone, I'm done.
Sure. Well, that's the line item, and I'm happy to kind of walk through the narrative portion, if that's helpful. This has our line item detail on it.
I think that's the only one.
I did email, I sent it recently, Josh, through email, maybe, do you want me to
Problem is we can't.
resend it?
I have it. You want me to email it? to
Yes.
everybody?
Can you email it
Yes.
to the Board of Finance? Thank you.
I have some printed copies, but not enough for all of you. I have a couple.
Hang on just a minute.
I'll take one.
Do you have it open?
Do you want the
Anyone else want to print it?
Thank you, a couple. You guys want to
Send me
share?
both.
Share.
Thank you. Share? You
Yeah.
have it?
Yep.
You have it.
I just got to put it on board.
All right, oh, there we go, all right. So did you want me to drive through the major points of the budget? Okay. Great. So thank you, first of all, for your support last year and previous years. We had a good year end. We had a very small overage, about $1,600 at the end of fiscal 25, which of course the Friends cover because that's how we do things. So this year we're coming to you with an ask that winds up being about 3.26% increase over the current approved budget, which is about $152,000 over the current approved budget. And the primary driver is healthcare. So as I discussed on a recent call with some of you, we are part of the state of Connecticut Partnership Plan, healthcare plan, and it has actually been a very good value over the long haul. It averages about 5% increases on the premiums year over year over the last 5 to 10 years. Last year it was below 3%, which was incredible. This year it's over 10%. We were very unhappy with that number and immediately sort of looked around and did some market research, looked at some other group plans. I spoke with Jen, talked about the town plan. Could that be a more cost-effective, plan for us? And ultimately the answer was no. Despite this 1 year pretty high increase of 10%, moving to a different group plan would not be long-term beneficial for us. There are some sort of sweetheart deals you can get in year one, but what often happens is that is not guaranteed. And then, the subsequent years are quite intense increases after that. Spoke with Jen about us joining the town plan. We at one time in the past were part of the town plan, so it depends on the type of plan and whether the plan would accept us, but also just fiscally, from a fiscal perspective, it just wouldn't make sense. It would be more more expensive per employee to do that shift. So the board and I discussed it at length. We looked at these different options and really came down on the side of, yes, it's a big increase for us, but overall the state partnership plan remains a really good value, and the increases, this is sort of a outlier. I think they come back next year with a 10 or percent increase again. We will have that same exercise, and we will again look to the town and to other group plans, and we're always going to be looking for our best option. Other than healthcare, the other only real drivers here, a little bit in the staffing line. I would call it a modest increase in the staffing line. This is year 5 of our 5-year plan to really address compensation. And 5 years ago, when I first became director, we did a really deep analysis, comprehensive analysis of every single position in the library, the educational background and experience required, what that position was, professional, paraprofessional, master's degree, et cetera. And then looked at the compensation benchmarks from the Connecticut Library Association, as well as very hyper-local, lower Fairfield County data, looking at our peers here, and what comparable positions were making, and then identified who was below or far below where they really needed to be. And we called those the green circle individuals. And then realized we weren't going to be able to address all those people at once, and so sort of planned it out over 5 years, prioritizing our professional staff and sort of working our way through that list slowly over time. And with your support and the support of the Board of Selectmen, we've been able to get all of those individuals, if not to benchmark, pretty darn close to benchmark, which is really an incredible progress that we've made on that. This year, or fiscal 27, we don't have any green circle people. Everyone is pretty much close enough, I would say, to where we'd want them to be. What our initiative this final year is just hold on to those gains, and that's really just keeping everyone eligible for 3%. Obviously pending all of their individual performance evaluation reviews, but trying to hold on to those gains for as long as we can so that we don't need to come back next year and be like, here's our new salary initiative. Like, we want to take a little break from that, see if we can hold on to those gains, because you never know what else is gonna, what we're gonna need budget, looking at building operations, which is our next staffing drivers, those things are going up too. So trying to hang on to our staffing wins over the last 4 years. The other little thing that's happening in the staffing line is a small increase in part-time hours for our tween and teen services department. And if you had a chance to read through the appendix or watch the Board of Selectmen presentation, you know that we actually have some very exciting news. It's not officially official till next week or the week after, but you're getting a little sneak preview that we are going to be embarking on a major capital project on our lower level, completely reimagining and renovating the lower level to be a teen and tween library center and makerspace. And this is going to effectively triple the square footage for that population. The square footage is already there in public, but it's kind of this underused. And if you haven't been on the lower level of the library in a while, it's a little dingy, a little sad. It's been in need of love for quite some time. And so what used to be this one little area called the Teen Lounge is now going to be essentially the entire public portion of the lower level. State-of-the-art, high-tech, as well as analog technology. And that is all being funded privately. So we have raised the money for that privately from foundations and families. We're still fundraising, but we have almost all of it raised to embark on that project this spring and this summer. Despite the fact that we're tripling essentially the square footage for this demographic, we don't need to triple the staff, and that is largely due to a very amazing, generous gift we got from the Sue McGraw Foundation. The Sue McGraw Foundation has endowed a full-time youth services position, and so that is what it's allowing us to sort of move our part-time hours around a little bit so that we can have all the support we need in both the children's and the teen services departments. And so all we really need is a little extra part-time support to make all of this function and operate successfully with this new space. So that's in the budget, and just a very exciting project, and we're able to do a lot because of that an incredible endowment gift of $2.2 million from Sue McGraw. Her and her late father, Harold McGraw Jr., have been just, I call them library angels. They've really been incredible donors, and just very excited that we can make all of this happen. Otherwise, the final driver is a little bit in the building operations line. The dollar amounts are not, huge. The percentages are a little scary looking. And as I said on the call, those are really reflective of actuals, numbers that we're seeing right now coming in. Repairs, replacements of parts, just annual maintenance contracts, labor costs are going up, parts, it's just all of those things are just trending up. And so to make sure that we are keeping pace with those increases in some of our maintenance contracts and repair costs, so that's where you see that. And those are pretty much it. We've tried to keep everything else flat. Anything that's essentially discretionary that we have, a lot of control over. We've really just tried to keep, administrative operations, and the other building expenses as close to flat as possible. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Also, the only thing we brought up on the call, because this is, a great budget as usual, and we've, I don't know, being assigned to this so many years in a row now, I feel pretty familiar with it, was the mention of a refund from the federal government last year of $112,000 that came back to the town, or came back to the library for continuing to employ or pay employees during COVID. Given that the town does pay the salaries, I felt that money should have come back to the town, but, went through a process where it was, redeployed on security cameras, which I'm sure was a great use of it. It's just, we're gonna add some language, I think, in our agreement with the library, going forward, so that something like that would come back here before anything is, reappropriated.
Yeah, and I think maybe to our discussion earlier about post, Kara worked with us as well as with Hutch and Rob and so forth to put together a grant agreement that we worked on. It took a little bit longer than we expected, I think, because we all just got busy. But this is probably one small, probably an extra sentence or two that we could implement into that just to deal with this. Again, it's not a large amount of money, but it's always, we can always continue to improve on our policies.
Right. And what the approval process should be, like a more formalized procedure, do I take it to the Board of Finance, do I take it to the town administrator? I feel like, those are things that we can iron out should anything similar happen in the future. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of time with you on the phone. I appreciate it. I don't have a lot of other questions on this. I mean, at 3 1/4, it's I say you beat the Board of Ed and you beat the Board of Selectmen, right? So
we really try to do that every year if we can.
We love it.
If you keep this up, we'll have you running both.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
Ever think about running for the Board of Finance?
I was thinking the same thing.
And the level of detail is really,
Yeah.
really outstanding.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm always happy to provide. If there's anything else, data, stats, library circulation statistics you'd like to see, let me know. We're always happy to provide those.
Nice job.
Yeah, I think you do a great job. I think what you probably heard before is that when we're considering other grants, small, medium, or large, we kind of begin to hold them to the same standard that you all that we hold you to and that you present to us, and it's so you've kind of created a high bar.
You've got a template with you.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate all your support. We really do. Thank you very much.
It's a gem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Okay, so we're going to go back and talk about the 3 fire departments, both operating and capital now, since we skipped over those to deal with.
No.
We did that, we did Darien first, right? So we're going to go open fire, is that
Because he
right?
was here.
No, we didn't do Darien.
We didn't do it.
We didn't do Darien.
We just did
We just did the
Marshal.
We just did
Marshal.
fire
Yeah, so why don't we start with alphabetical order?
With what?
Darien Fire Department.
Darien Fire Department.
Right. So Darien Fire Department, budget of $221,554, showing an increase of, 2.2% of about $4,800. Nothing really notable here. The amount's really small. It's almost de minimis. There was $5,000 for some motorized equipment repair, and then, really small amounts that frankly, I have nothing to say about. is there any questions on the fire department operating? I didn't
You mean
see
on Darien
anything
Fire?
over there.
No.
Darien
No.
Fire operating, yeah.
Good.
So on the capital side, they had a request of 155,000, 5,000 small capital, and then the 150,000 for the firehouse HVAC replacement. I think that explanation was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it was early 90s is what the note, is that the
Right.
note? That's my note.
Right.
Was the last time it was, that's how long it's been in service.
Yeah, so I didn't see any, I didn't have any questions on the need to replace that. I think pretty important. The only thing I wanted to bring up is, just put a pin in the fact that this past year, we gave them 10,000 for the turnout gear dryer. And this is in the next discussion, I think it's Norotan Heights, is it? Norotan Fire Department, they're asking for a turnout gear dryer for 17,000. I just noticed a big change. So we can, like, what happened in a year that it almost went up double? So anyway, so as far as capital on Darien Fire Department, I didn't have any other comments. I was looking, again, we've got some radio replacement coming down the pipeline, and I just want to make sure as we are coordinated in radios across all departments to get some sort of scale or economies of scale. I don't know if they're similar products or not, but it seems like we got a lot of radios going on.
Or is the HVAC, like anything on the roof again, and are we going to do the police and do the town hall condensers, or can we do that one too?
Right.
Right.
How many?
Just driving down Post Road.
5 of them in?
Yeah.
Right? You got 2
Bulk
police,
order.
2 here and then 1 here?
Yeah.
Do them all the same day?
Yeah, can we, I don't know if there's a way.
Get on that, Josh.
Sure, we'll
Yeah,
do.
aggregate.
They got to go down Post Road to get to Cherry Lawn, to get to, where are they going? Where's-
Darien?
Guess they can lift
Where
that thing
are
on
the
the
other
ladder
rooftops?
truck.
Town Hall, and, please, all right, please. So, anyway.
So, next is the Norotan, any questions on that?
Good.
Nothing. Okay, so on Norotan Fire Department, 241,721. It's an increase of 3.4%, or of basically $7,953. Back to my numbers here. I didn't really have any, the amounts were pretty, very small, about 1,000. To be truthful, when I look at changes of, 10% and it only equates to $1,000, I don't really get upset about that. So I thought that this, again, we've got a turnout gear. Turnout gear is expensive, right?
I think that was a state contract that went
Yeah.
up.
Yep. So I didn't have any other, if anyone had any questions on that. And as far as Norotan,
I have one question.
yes.
Did we, the fire administrator, we got the fire administrator, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And is that person making sure that like turnout gear is bought?
So that person just got hired. I don't think they've started yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly.
But that's when maybe we'll hopefully have that person here and we can ask questions like, is it?
On radios and
Yeah.
turnout gear.
So I know I believe it's a part-time position.
It
I'm
is
not
a
sure they
part-time
would
position.
kind of come and present, but
I mean,
I think that was a
do
change we
know-
made last year from full-time to
Right.
part-time.
But
Yes.
I do know that some of the firehouses are very wedded to certain equipment.
oh,
So there might be instances where there's differences, but we were hoping that having somebody would perhaps help with.
I also thought that part of this was for the accounting, so that
Yes.
we made sure things got done in time,
Yeah.
grants were done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And training, right?
Yes, exactly.
So the only thing on capital in the Norotan Fire Department is the total capital request. They've got several capital items, 139,000. Namely, there's a small capital of 5,000. Again, mobile radio replacement, 12,000. and 34,000 for supply and attack hose. I'm not going to debate them on that. 15,000 for replacement rescue life safety rope, and then the building roof replacement. Josh answered my question. I didn't understand why 15,000 for roof replacement, and then a few years down the road they're going to have 100,000. So I guess that's just a section they're going to replace.
Yeah,
it's a patch job.
Well, I don't think it's a patch exactly. I think it's just a one kind of standalone smaller section that they're replacing, and then further down the line, it's either a larger section or the entirety that they're replacing.
The entirety. Okay. Okay. And the energy audit, and again, turnout gear, central dryer, 17,000. So I was just curious on.
It does say turnout gear cabinet dryer. The other one just says turnout gear dryer.
Dryer.
Maybe they're different.
This one's a cabinet. I think it can dry 6 pairs at a time. They have the exact number. I know drying turnout gear is the biggest difficulty.
Right.
Well, isn't it cleaning and drying?
Cleaning, I think, takes about an hour and a half for two sets, and I think drying takes about 24 hours for 2 sets. So that's really the slowdown.
Right.
And I think this gives them, I think, a capacity of 6 within 12 hours. So it.
And that's cheaper than just having a spare set of gear.
This must take up more space, but be more expensive, I suppose, but can do more at a time.
I don't think the $10,000 one could do six.
Yeah.
They can probably do 2.
Well, perfect. Okay. Any questions on the Norotan Fire Department? Nope. Okay. And then we have the Norotan Heights Fire Department. 246,396, up 2.8%. Again, the amount is $6,785. Let's come back here. What happened? Turnout gear increase, adding back some snow removal. These are all these are about $5,000 amounts. There was a $3,875 increase in battery replacement, $5,300 in facility repair. Nothing jumped out at me. All the amounts were fairly de minimis. And then they're on their capitals, $45,000 request for capital, $5,000 small capital, $25,000 thermal imaging cameras, and then $15,000 of water rescue.
Water rescue suits, right? Water rescue
Water rescue
suits and
equipment.
inflatable boats.
Yeah. Equipment.
As they're failing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Didn't have any comments on that. And then lastly, the Fire Commission. We have, hang on a second, 314,000, sorry. Yes, 314,832, down 8.7% or 29, almost 30,000. I guess that's the part-time position moving over to the town admin.
Yep, right.
And they added $2,750 pretty much for a rapid access system. And on the capital side, $3,380,000, 2 fire trucks, paving of the parking lot, and the rapid access system of $45,000.
They're moving the fire trucks out of the budget request.
Okay.
They're moving the budget, right? They're it's probably going to be, what I remember hearing from the Board of Selectmen meeting is that they're going to probably accelerate that prior to June 30. So that might be a fiscal 2026 decision, not a fiscal 2027 budget.
Yeah, I think they were being pulled out for bonding anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it wouldn't.
Okay.
It wouldn't.
And it's
But
1.6 million per 2 engines, 41 and 42, to replace 2 engines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're on that, I see their fire engine replacement schedules on track.
Right.
Do you know if they're going to do a tour of those, which we've had in the past too?
We didn't arrange a tour this year. I think we last did it 2 years ago.
Yeah,
But it was requested at the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Something.
Yeah, I'm sure we could get one if we need it.
Yeah. Do you think if you wanted to do that before, you feel like you go to before the RTM votes?
Yeah, I think that's good because we have a new public health and safety person chairing that for Mac, so that's good to start to get them involved and understand something.
Okay. I can reach out to the three chiefs and
Thank you.
coordinate with you.
Plus, it's fun.
Yep.
And no more questions on that. The last is hydrants and water mains. Budget of 500,000, down 20,000, or mine went down 3.8%. Don't really question it when they go down. Just hydrant charges. And then a little bit of, the only revenue was in the fire marshal budget.
He talked about that.
Yeah, he already talked about that. So does anyone have anything to add?
I mean, there's 2 fire trucks
And
is
2 fire trucks.
the biggest piece of all of this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And we have those slated for bonding, you know. There's been discussion about sort of what we bond for and what we pay cash for. You know,
Right.
this is, you know, there's the sort of how you want to finance it, and then there's the how do you want to appropriate it, because these things now have taken on, rather than a 1-year lead time, these are now 2 and 3, and for some of the specialized trucks, longer lead times. So just something for us to all think about as we,
Jim, with the bonding, that's part of the reason bond, because whenever they do come in, and I know we're gonna have some coming in, the Board of Finance can always ask for an appropriation, special appropriation, and then you rescind that.
Yep.
But that was one of the options. It gives us 4 years of free money, basically.
yeah, so it's something that we can think about, like when it gets closer to delivery,
Yeah.
would we want to rescind the bond authorization and change that to cash?
Yeah.
Maybe that depends on kind of what that budget year looks like, but it's,
What do you think?
That's all I got.
And sewer fund is next?
No, emergency management.
Oh, sorry. I thought we.
You're not
okay,
done.
Got it.
They took my thunder though, because I was going to explain the paramedic how it all works, so I don't have to do that now. Okay, emergency management is up 6.1%, $16,000. This is the one that has 50% that's split with the fire marshal of emergency management director. In this department, they asked to fund a part-time assistant director, which is not reflected in this budget. Jennifer did not believe there was enough work to actually have a part-time person, so he's going to limp along with the volunteer that he has that does the work right now. And she acknowledged that it is very difficult for him to fill his own shoes when he's out of town. So this is something to keep an eye on. It sounds to me like they're just going to have to figure out what to do with some of these departments with part-time work in the future. But
Do you know what the ask was originally for part-time?
I do, let's see, do you know? Because it's not in here.
19 and a half hours a week.
I don't know. Because we don't have that version, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so the biggest part of the increase here is actually under program expenses, and that is to hold a full-scale emergency exercise that hasn't been done in quite a while. So that's why, that's really all that's reflected in this budget.
For 15,000.
Yes. And then the other piece is emergency medical service.
It was 34,000 was the ask for the part-time.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the other piece of this is emergency medical service. That budget is $504,574, a $220,000 increase, but that's because the post-53 grant is in here. The other part besides the grant is professional services, and you can see that that is budgeted this year for $75,000. That's the paramedic contract. The contract itself is $585,000 with Stanford. And so when these transports happen and these bills are generated and then there's collections, that reduces the amount that the town owes. That's
a net
applied.
number.
That's applied to the $585,000. So this $75,000 is a guess, right? It's a guess
Projection.
of what's thought.
So I'd say the year-to-date of December shows 8,000, but we had our Q2 come through in January, which was about 21,000 or so. So year-to-date right now, we're at about 30,000 or so. So that probably will get us towards that 75,000-ish.
And Josh, in terms of what we're paying them, the contract hasn't changed in terms of the what we're getting, it's just how much we're paying them, right?
Correct.
And how much is that piece up?
Oh, I did send you that.
Did you send it to me?
I just sent it to you a bit ago. Hang on, I can tell you.
Their paramedics have a union, so sometimes the contract it reflects whatever the union negotiated over there.
Yep.
So.
Which is what our executive director's contract also reflects, right? What they were gonna have over there.
I don't know what his 6-year contract,
Yeah, is he on a 6-year contract?
now he is, that's what Post signed.
Okay, and did I hear 3 to 4% salary increases?
They were kind of like, oh, it's gonna go up to 3 or 4 or 2.
That's what I
or-
kind of-
Yeah, they
yeah.
kind of were.
So it may not be contractual.
Unclear whether it's a sort of employment contract or an actual salary contract as well.
Yeah, maybe it's supposed to mimic what the union contract negotiation is, so maybe it's like whatever they get over there, we'll.
Well, because they matched what contract he was
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to
yeah,
get
so
there.
they don't have control over that increase, they're just gonna
Maybe.
presumably, or,
If that's how they wrote,
Hypothetically.
if that's how they wrote the contract, yes.
okay.
So it was 547,000 in FY26 was their contract, and it's 585 now.
Yeah, 585.
I think that was like 5 or 6%, something like that. Yeah.
There's one capital item. It's small, let's see.
Yeah, it was a 6.9% increase.
The capital item is under the emergency management portion. It's $20,000 for trailer-mounted light tower. In case of an emergency, if you needed to shed a bunch of light on something, it's, I guess, a trailer that they take out and put up big lights.
I think it's also used during some town events as well.
No, that was the speaker, I think. Right?
I thought they talked about it could also be used. You know, the fire
Oh,
trucks
yeah,
have
it does say for fireworks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it does say for fireworks. That's it, though.
Keep that in mind.
That's a good idea.
Roll that thing to my house. My neighbors be really.
Okay. Any other questions on emergency medical services?
All right, now sewer fund. So if you go to sewer, if you look at the top, expenditures are going up 15.6% and revenues are going up 15.6%. And basically, you've got a reduction in fees paid to Stanford of about $265,000. And that principally is funding a $230,000 transfer to the sewer capital fund when you cut through all of this other stuff. There's also a $25,000 increase. So there's a $704,000 increase in sewer collection fees and a $25,000 increase in sewer connection fees collection versus connection. And that's funding the transfer to the capital fund. Everything else is pretty, I mean, nothing else is noteworthy on the expense line. On the capital side, there's $310,000 of capital, 5 items, $75,000 to replace/upgrade pump equipment, $25,000 for mainline cleaning, including CCTV, and that's on a 10-year revolving schedule, and I think that's state mandated. There's $60,000 to control, for chemical control of root intrusion. There's $25,000 to repair collection infrastructure. These are pipes. And there's $125,000 to replace, I can't read my own writing. Equipment needed for regular and emergency cleaning of pipes. And these pipes are 30 years old. So we all agree that we want to spend every dollar necessary on our sewer system. So I had no issues, questions on sewer, other than the fact that this initiative to identify what's going into our sewer system is successfully reducing the payment of fees to Stanford, and we're not all the way through. Parking.
I'll also give props to Ed, who goes through Stanford's sewer budget line by line, account by account, to make sure we're getting hit with the right costs.
Yes,
put back.
that's exactly right. So on parking, the overall budget is $937,000, which is down about $7,000, or just under 1%. There's an $8,000 decrease in professional services. There's an $8,000 increase in facility repair and maintenance, and that's because it's budgeted that the elevator at the Darien train station will be operational and will therefore have to be maintained. And this fund's an $18,000 decrease, so there's an $18,000 decrease, down 7% in the contribution to the parking fund. There's also employee benefits are up $10,000, or about 9.5%, which is mostly healthcare related. So this is all kind of right-sized to revenue, and parking permits are projected flat at $420,000. Parking tickets are projected down $10,000 and $90,000. And there's a $5,000 reduction in rent as there's no concession contract, I don't think, on either train station. So again, as I mentioned, there's an $18,000 increase in the contribution to the parking fund. And then on capital, it's $75,000 to resurface the Norotan Heights station drop-off surface lot. And that's it for parking.
Do we really expect to get paved parking at Darien next year?
Get what?
Oh, that's in there.
It's the capital.
It's
That's
in
for
the
next
next
year, but-
20, fiscal 28's.
Yeah. Is that really gonna happen? When do we
Well,
get our-
it's got to finish it sometime, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be,
Yep.
and I would think then they would pave the lot, yes, so. I think that's it, right?
That's it?
Yep. It's a closed fund anyway, so all the money we collect on tickets and parking revenue can only go back to that, so all it we do run a surplus in that. So. Okay. In terms of special assignments, HHR, anything to update?
HHR approved the use of some of the contingency. Everybody's on a loop on that, right? Some of the Board of Education expenses, like especially parking lot. There's a pretty good.
Oh, for the capital?
For the capital.
So the roughly $1 million?
Roughly $1 million, yeah. A little less than $1 million is going to come out of the contingency.
Excellent.
At the HHR, and there's still, we're in March. The project's supposed to completely be finished by beginning of the school year. We're running at a really good pace from an operational standpoint and also from a financial standpoint. So the HHR board basically voted to take that it's a little less than $1 million, as you said, and take it out of contingency there. That's my update for the HHR.
Okay. Lynn, anything on our favorite beach?
Yeah. My last meeting was almost a month ago, so I don't have the latest and greatest, but the dredging, of course, was all done. That had to be completed by the end of January and all taken away. And then the next thing they did, they should be probably finished with the boat ramp by now. And then they did all the concrete work, like the curbs and I think sidewalks
right?
that they worked on in there. And they were working on the rough grading the last time of the parking lot, the last time we had a meeting. So parking lot is still the big thing. All the cold weather did not help. So we'll see. But they were still saying that they thought they would have it ready by May 1. So hopefully everyone will be able to get to the boat club by May 1. So we're going to get an update. Our next meeting is April 1st. So we'll see how they're doing then. But it's moving.
Okay. Paul, anything on pension?
We have a meeting in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Our quarterly meeting.
Well, I think one thing I'd like to propose add one other item to our agenda. The Board of Selectmen voted last night to create the building committee for the Great Island sort of parking loop and parking lots, right? And so included in that, they're going to include a Board of Finance representative, member of the Board of Finance. So my suggestion was going to be recommend to the Board of Selectmen that we include Jenny as our rep to oversee kind of lifting.
Why are you laughing, Paul?
Oversee lifting what is
He's just
sort of
happy it wasn't him.
a plan that came out of the master plan, right? For parking.
Volunteers tribute.
All those that volunteer step forward.
So I'd like to nominate Jenny as the Board of Finance has recommended.
Second.
Rob seconds. All those
Vigorously
in
in
favor?
favor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Yes. So congrats.
One more thing for your LinkedIn profile.
Exactly.
Look,
We'll
extra line.
expect daily podcast updates on what's going on.
Yeah, when will I guess I should hear from them, like when
Yeah.
the meeting schedules.
Exactly. It should probably be 3 to 4 nights per week.
Twice on the weekends.
Yes, twice on the weekends,
Yeah. Starting at 8 o'clock.
It reminds
Jenny, it
me.
may be short-lived depending upon when Reed Hildebrand comes in.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think the general state of what that plan was the big idea was put forward in terms of the master plan. Now it's taking that sort of somewhat higher, medium level idea and translating that into building documents or construction documents
Yeah.
and an overall design,
Yeah.
so that we'll know what that actually
Timetable
costs.
and- Right.
Yeah. So it's now your island.
Stay away from the golden bathrooms.
In terms of just new business, next week we'll have another meeting. We're going to be meeting with the Board of Ed. I think Rob and Jenny both joined me on a call today with the Board of Ed. I think I've been feeding you all a bunch of information that they've put together. I think the general consensus is, if I can speak for Rob and Jenny, is like they've done a lot of work on this.
Yeah.
I know it's something the town is looking at. The time
You
feels
mean
like
self-funding?
Self-funding.
Didn't mention
Yes,
self-funding.
sorry.
but-
Yes, self-funding, I should say self-insurance, right? So funding an internal services fund that they would use to effectively self-insure with sort of guardrails on it for individual claims and aggregate claims. But they've done a lot of work. You know, this is something I think we've all been on them to look at over the last 4 or 5 years. I think Rich was pretty adamant about the last 4 or 5 years. Each time it wasn't right. I think this time, given some turnover in staff and given pricing and so forth, it seems like it's the right the right time. So we'll get a little bit of an update on that, but I'd encourage you all to kind of look at a lot of the Q&A that went back and forth.
Yeah, and just on that self-funding, both Rich and Dr. Byrne are very familiar with it and have used it in the past.
Yep.
So
That's good.
that was kind of
That's
good to start. We started the conversation with it. Do you guys have any experience? And both of them had plenty of experience with it. So it's medical, pharmacy, dental, and vision claims.
Yeah.
We could, if we want to get into it more next Tuesday, we can talk about it. But they did a really nice job answering all our questions today.
Yeah. And I'd also add, I think Josh has been very helpful as well, kind of coming from a town that used that as well.
That's
So
right.
I think that's,
Great.
he's been helpful answering questions, and I think I think it'll help in the overall implementation of it into our financial accounting and so forth. So
Yeah,
Josh, appreciate all
It felt like
that.
this was the year to do it.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
between your experience and Rich's and Dr. Burns, it all
It's a good
came
tool,
together.
you know, it just has to be managed and accounted
Right, it's gotta be
correctly.
managed, right, exactly.
So that's it from my side. Okay, entertaining a motion to adjourn. Rob moves. Malin seconds. All those in favor? Stand adjourned. Thank you.